Well, hello there. The world has gone crazy in 2026, and we've all heard about the conflict in the Middle East, the attack on Persia. And so I thought today we'd have a look into some alternative views than what we're being fed on the mainstream media and social media. So let's jump in.
Last night, the Iranians struck the home of Benjamin Netanyahu. They killed his brother. They struck the home of Ben Gvir. He is seriously wounded, may not survive. Iran is going to start to take out the totality of Israel's leadership. This is the reality of this conflict. Israel played the regime change game. It's going to be the Israelis that are going to be paying the highest price. The Iranians are no longer wearing kid gloves. They've taken them off, and they're coming in bare knuckle.
They're reporting it. This is interesting. I looked it up as soon as you said it. The BBC is reporting it as Ben Gvir was in a car accident last night. Does that surprise you?
They can report it any way they want. We know that his home is on fire, so maybe he crashed his car into his house.
That's interesting. The only reason I just can't help but be amused by this, because it would not surprise me for the BBC to provide cover for a story like this. Yeah, you and I
now know that the BBC reporters that work overseas are vetted by MI6 before they're allowed to take on their assignment. So the fact that they're colluding with Mossad to provide cover for, because what you don't want to do is confirm success. You from a battle damage assessment perspective, you don't want to confirm an Iranian success. And so what you'll do is you'll lie, you'll obfuscate, you'll cover. It's a standard operational technique. But the fact that the BBC, who's supposed to be a journalistic outlet telling the truth, is actively engaged with the Israelis to create cover for the effectiveness of an Iranian strike proves that the BBC is no longer a journalistic outlet, is purely 100% involved in information operations that are being put together by the MI6, by the CIA, by Mossad.
Well, there you go. Straight from the horse's mouth, I guess. We're not being told the truth about this war. And of course, right? But we only get ever told one side of the story, the side of the story from whichever regime we live under, right? So, the USA and the Izzy country, they're not going to tell us of any losses. They're just going to tell us that they're winning, and the details we get aren't even going to be true, right? They're going to tell us that they've done this and they've taken out this and that they're winning no matter what the story is. So, looking at this, it looks like the war is definitely going the other way than what we've been told.
Breaking news, the BBC is reporting from Israel that the country is now in a partial lockdown, with empty streets due to fear of Iranian attacks, closed shops, and a situation that is becoming unbearable for the people. Iran just mass texted Israeli citizens this morning. The last U.S. radar systems in the region have been destroyed. Your government leaders are lying to you. Leave the country. Missiles are on their way. No shelter can provide safety. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard. And Israel's thinking now that Iran has warned them. Any deaths are not their responsibility. IRGC General Masoud Akhtari told Iranian News, and I quote, "Because we destroyed their radars, Trump and Netanyahu are trapped in a slaughterhouse now in the Persian Gulf." And I believe him. Sirens have not been going off in Israel. The Iron Dome is no longer working, and residents are not getting any bomb warnings. Yesterday, Iran warned they will no longer use small missiles. All missiles launched toward Israel will now carry a minimum of 110 warhead, and they are not lying. More than 10 missiles landed in the heart of Tel Aviv last night, destroying the Hawla Satellite Communications Center south of Tel Aviv. A couple more hit targets in the north and center of the occupied territories. 3 strategic missile drones struck American bases in the region and northern occupied Palestine. 2 other missiles targeted U.S. and Israeli military bases and logistical centers. And there were drone attacks on Israeli energy infrastructure in Haifa, including oil and gas refineries, plus fuel storages. I can go on about all the missiles they sent yesterday. But Iran is not backing off and is overwhelming Israel and the United States with these bombardments. Also, Iran has now begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, according to CNN and CBS. So far, a few dozen mines have been laid, but there's a possibility that they could lay hundreds more in the coming days. Rumor has it they have thousands. This could send the price of oil skyrocketing and cause catastrophic consequences for the oil markets. President Trump just posted on his Truth Social response to these mines being laid out by Iran, and he says, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait and we have no reports of them doing so, We want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what they have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned for more updates.
Yeah, well, a different story, right? Looks like the Izzy country is on the back foot. And of course, the start of that video, he said the BBC were reporting, basically reporting that Israel's, had a lot of destruction and they're being attacked, and poor little Izzy, right? Basically, when we all know they started this conflict, all right? So you don't get to do that and then cry when the person you attacked retaliates. But it sounds like Persia, be careful with my words, right? Is a much bigger threat than either the US and Izzy knew, or there is something else going on behind the scenes. I mean, obviously they're going to tell us, the oil, we've got that narrative, the oil, obviously the religious narrative. There's obviously the background religious war, right? Islam versus Christianity, the final war, and prophecy and all this, the third temple, the ark, all that kind of stuff's going on in the background too. I'm just trying to think of what was the reason they gave for going in. I think it was nuclear weapons in the end, wasn't it? And that's literally, there's videos out there of Netanyahu, Benji, saying this since the 90s, that Persia is 3 months away from creating nuclear weapons, even though Izzy and the USA have nuclear weapons, right? So they can have them and someone else can't. But anyway, what it looks like is that, yeah, Israel has bitten off more than it can chew. And it looks like a lot of the countries in the Middle East are now turning their attention directly on Izzy.
Breaking news, over 100 rockets moments ago have been fired from Lebanon into Israel. This is the biggest attack since the war has started. And the Israelis are now vowing to target civilian infrastructure and have more ground operations in the south of Lebanon. This attack occurred out of nowhere, and Israeli air defenses were not even activated at all. In this video, you can watch the rockets come out of southern Lebanon. And remember, they've spent around the past 5 days attacking Israeli radars and other air defense systems. And from what we know, the operation has been called Operation Fierce Raid. They have fired off a barrage of hundreds of rockets, the biggest yet, to deplete the Israeli air defenses, target radars, and destroy everything they can. And later tonight, the Iranians, in probably about an hour or two, are going to launch an even bigger wave over at the Israelis to try to catch them in the moment of recovering and coming out of the shelters. 2 days ago, Israel's biggest radar in the north was taken out by a missile, so they did not see any of this coming, which is why interceptors weren't even shot up in the sky. Comment your thoughts on all this. Follow me for the newest update.
So yeah, it's not just Persia now. There are other countries firing at Izzy. And my perspective is looking at what the leaders of Izzy do and what they control, it would not be a bad thing for them to fall. Let me just say it that way. They obviously control so much, the economic system. They control it, right? So all this stuff that's gone on with the economy over the last 5 years, they're at the top of it. The whole 2020, right? What went on there? They're in there. Big pharma, right? All of this stuff, entertainment, obviously. And look what they're doing to the world. Look what they're doing to the people, right? They're destroying it, right? It's an all-out war on the whole world, right? This getting us to focus on it's just Persia is really silly, right? They're clearly attacking us all, just not with rockets, mainly with ideology, with poisons in the food, water, and air. The lack of education, misinformation, like all this stuff, right? Degradation of morals, destruction of the family unit. This is their war against us, but they get us to focus on things like this conflict so that we think that's what war is. And that way we don't see the soft invasion that is coming towards us. So obviously, I don't, want people to be hurt, injured, or worse. Especially the people that just happen to be there, living there, because not all people in the land of Izzy are Zionists or Ashkenazis or Khazarians. Some of them are just following their faith, I guess, what they were born into. But at the same time, if they've been standing by and they're fine with what's been going on in Gaza, then I guess you reap what you sow, right? So, if you're in that land, I would get out because definitely, your government are provoking everyone around you, right? They're surrounded by these countries and they're provoking them all. And basically, because they think that America, the USA, is going to be, there to protect them, their bodyguard, come to their aid, but I'm not sure that the USA is equipped to do that as far as its numbers, as far as infantry, as far as all the things they need to go into war, right? All the weapons, their manufacturing apparently has almost disappeared. They don't even really make cars there anymore. So where are they manufacturing all this stuff? It really starting to look like, the Zionists, we'll call them, have bitten off more than they can chew. And they're sort of expecting everyone to come to their aid. And of course, all of the mainstream media is because they own them. And I guess that they thought that that would be enough to, incite all the people into becoming involved with this war and backing it. But with everything that's gone on over the last 5 years and the raising of awareness, I really think they may have miscalculated here. And I really hope that they have.
Trump was told, probably by Netanyahu and Mossad and the CIA, oh, you got to invade Iran. It'll be the greatest thing ever. All we have to do is kill all these leaders, and then the Iranian people are going to rise up and protest. Government, it just falls, and you're going to declare victory. It'll be so inspiring. You're going to pick the new supreme leader of Iran, and it's going to be like Venezuela, and all the oil supply to fall into American hands, and that's going to be the end of it. It was all bullshit, top to bottom. Why? Because actually, Iran doesn't want to be led by the United States. It really doesn't. From Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Nicaragua, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, it doesn't work. Now, what about the specifics? The specifics seem to be that you can make a hell of a lot of cheap drones, and you can't make $2 to $4 million THAADs and Patriot missile defenses. So it seems to be the case that the United States will run out of the anti-missile defenses sooner than Iran will run out of the means to attack. And we're entering into a massive energy crisis for two reasons. One, if you can't pump what you're producing, you can't produce more. So you have to shut down the fields. Second, Iran has been hitting the physical infrastructure of the energy sector throughout the Middle East, refineries and production sites and port facilities. So both of these factors, in addition to the shipping lane in the Strait of Hormuz being closed, means that we could see oil prices $125, $150 a barrel, comparable increases in the price of natural gas. Also, Iran's not alone. It's going to get help from China. It's going to get help from Russia, providing all sorts of components for Iran to build its weaponry, all sorts of intelligence operations, finance, and so forth. Because Iran is China's main oil supplier, and it doesn't want all the world's oil supply to fall into American hands with an American administration that is out to harm China. In the meantime, the United States has no industrial plans, no strategy, no nothing. Trump says that the U.S. Navy is going to escort these tankers through the Straits of Hormuz. I haven't heard one independent expert that believes remotely that this is anything other than mad Emperor Donald spouting off ignorantly as usual. So the only strategy the United States has right now is war. It's a disaster. So my guess is that either the shooting stops and Trump declares a delusional victory and can live within his own imagination that he's achieved the greatest victory in the history of the world since the creation of Earth, or the war goes on. And if the war goes on, it does not go well.
Yeah, different perspective, hey? And I guess the question has to be asked is this all on purpose as far as is this to implode the USA, right? All the Western countries, right? Same in Australia here, same in the Europe and the UK, Canada. You know, we've had the finances, everything, the cost of everything to do with living has gone through the roof, right? Jobs are starting to disappear. We've got the whole AI threat. You know, we're still, you know, they're still trying to push another, you know, deadly bug on us. There's just so much going on. The E-files have come out, like it's crazy, right? But like, if this destroys the oil flow into America, the USA, then that's going to have catastrophic repercussions. You know, it's going to totally halt the country, the transport of the country. It's going to affect the food. It's going to put the price of everything up. Like they said, oil going up to 125 a barrel or something. We've already seen the prices in oil spike, you know, and put that on top of the other cost of living things. It's really going to make it hard for people. And then, you know, they're going to spend all this, well, waste all this money of their military equipment, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Then they're going to find themselves this big country with a broken economy and, you know, not very good defense left, right? And under the thumb of the Izzy country. So it's not looking good, you know, the repercussions of this war for America, for the USA. And, you know, it's going to be a flow-on effect too to other Western nations like Australia, Canada, UK, etc. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think is the real objective here? What do you think that the Allies, right, are after? Is this just religious prophecy? Is this trying to gain control of the oil that went wrong? Or is this something completely different? Let me know your thoughts.
The Israelis know they're running out of time. When you have folks like Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson on one end of the political spectrum and progressives like Graham Plattner on the other, both calling out the unnatural control that AIPAC has over the U.S. Congress, it's clear that a new wave of politicians are going to be running for office, and the new battle cry is, "I don't take AIPAC money." And once AIPAC's control in the Congress wanes, once people like Chuck Schumer are no longer in power, the Israelis know that the billions of dollars they've been siphoning out of the U.S. economy for decades will end. While far too many Democratic and Republican elected officials have simply allowed themselves to be bought over the years by buckets of AIPAC money originating from American taxpayers, by the way, an unknown number were caught up in Jeffrey Epstein's operation. Jeffrey Epstein worked for Mossad and Israeli intelligence, getting blackmail on American corporate and political leaders. And now the Israelis have called in the debt, which is why the Epstein files absolutely must be released in their entirety. We need to understand how many American political leaders in the Congress and the White House are utterly and completely compromised by Netanyahu and the Israeli intelligence services. But that being said, Donald Trump also has the arrogance and the ignorance to think that the U.S. military could have taken down Iran. He's fired most of the competent leaders in the Pentagon and replaced them with yes men. But even then, leaders in the Pentagon said, "Do not do this." And he did it anyway. He stuck his foot in the Iranian bear trap. Bombs are falling on Tel Aviv, and the Middle East is collapsing into war again. Republicans like Thomas Massie have already called out the direct connection between Epstein and Israeli intelligence, and between AIPAC and the lockstep agreement that Congress seems to have with whatever Israel asks of us. But the end result of all that fealty to Israel has led us to this. We are now caught up in a war with Iran. This is Donald Trump's arrogance piled on top of the Republican Party's fealty to him. If they don't wake up and impeach him for the multitude of criminal acts he has already committed, then America may find itself in the same situation Israel is. Americans are not magically invulnerable to the fallout of Donald Trump's geopolitical madness. The Israelis know they're running out of time. Their control over the Congress is waning. But as long as we allow Donald Trump to keep us in lockstep with a man like Netanyahu, the architect of the slaughter in Gaza and now the bombing of a girls' school in Iran, we're running out of time too.
the world is waking up or, becoming more aware. And I don't know that these tricks are going to work anymore. I really think they may have bitten off more than they can chew. I think that they may have misread the public and how much control they have over what they're thinking. I really do. That's what it's looking like. And that's based on the information I can get, which, you know, may or may not be true, but it's definitely the opposite to what we're being told on the mainstream media, right? Which is that, the USA is winning this and Iran is just about to give up and all this, and they've, done major hits. And yes, they did definitely take out their leader, but that he's been replaced already, and Iran or Persia is not backing down. And again, all these other countries around them have joined Persia against ISI, right, which has been wreaking havoc, stealing land and committing genocide since the 50s, since that country was created. So, like this is a thing we've all been waiting for something like this to happen, something that could make these powers that be fall and fall harshly and be taken out. And this just might be it. We can only hope, right?
Why are the US and Israel framing their attack on Iran as a religious war?
Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics, crazy regimes like Iran hell-bent on prophetic Islamist delusions.
Let's start with the US, where a military watchdog says some troops have been told the war with Iran could trigger the biblical end of times, in effect, Armageddon, and that US President Donald Trump has been anointed by Jesus.
We are honored to come before your presence today, lifting up the arms of our president. We pray for your continued blessing and favor to rest upon him.
The group also says some commanders are even inviting troops to Bible studies to teach blood-soaked Christian nationalist fantasies. And that raises concerns about the separation of church and state within the military. So why is the language around this war with Iran starting to sound like religious prophecy? Well, white evangelical Christians are still among Trump's most loyal supporters. Many back the military action in Iran, viewing it through a lens of biblical prophecy and support for Israel.
I know this can all be very frightening, but Bible prophecy is not given to scare us, but to prepare us.
And that support may be especially welcome right now, given the president's approval ratings having hit an all-time low after his decision to join Israel in attacking Iran. In what officials are calling Operation Epic Fury, the strikes were launched without congressional approval and have so far resulted in 6 US service members being killed. And that has not gone down well with Trump's MAGA base. In response, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the US had to expect Iran would retaliate.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces.
But these comments seem to have only deepened the divide among Americans. Many were already bitter about the US's involvement in the 12-day war with Iran back in June 2025, and what they see as Washington's continued alignment with Israeli foreign policy.
It's hard to say this, but the United States didn't make the decision here. Benjamin Netanyahu did.
Support among the wider public also appears limited. A Reuters Ipsos poll suggests only 1 in 4 Americans support US strikes on Iran. So might the US government's use of religious rhetoric be an attempt for Trump to appeal to his remaining evangelical base of supporters?
May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America.
For politicians, using religious language during times of war isn't new. After the September 11th attacks, President George W. Bush famously described the coming fight as a crusade. But within a few days, the White House distanced itself from the remark, fearing it suggested the United States was waging a religious war against Islam. Now, though, the same rhetoric is being used again. Israel has also been leaning heavily on biblical language.
אנחנו קראנו בפרשת השבוע, זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק, אנחנו זוכרים ואנחנו פועלים.
Amalek is a biblical enemy in Jewish scripture and is often used to represent absolute evil. It's a term used various times before by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli officials in reference to Palestinians in Gaza during Israel's genocidal war there, and it remains popular. Why? Well, Ibrahim Abu Sharif, an associate professor at Northwestern University in Qatar, told Al Jazeera that religious language can mobilize domestic constituencies. In other words, it can help rally support at home by tapping into beliefs many people already hold, helping to create an us versus them dichotomy. But once wars are framed in sacred terms, political compromise can be harder to achieve. And if the language is used to justify and fuel a war, what does that mean for ending it?
Well, is it a religious war? I would say, it definitely is in some aspects, right? Because it's definitely got the whole Islam v Christianity, probably v Judaism aspect to it. But the bigger picture is, that there is prophecy of the final war being between Islam and Christianity, which doesn't make any sense at all, right? Because they're both Abrahamic religions. They both started in the same place. So they both literally have the same God, right? Crazy, but they mix the narratives up. They love to divide and conquer. But, in the background, we've got all this engineered prophecy, like the end times that they keep pushing and pushing, end times, right? We're close to the world ending and blah, 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 and the apocalypse is coming, all this kind of stuff. And, that obviously we've got all the weather events that have been going on, but I think we all understand that these are all, I won't say man-made, psychopath, elite made, right? That they're all contrived. They're not natural. So they're not part of the Earth's natural cycle. So they're trying to build in this belief that there is an end time to the Earth and that we're close to it, right? And that there's going to be total destruction. And then we also know they've been trying to build the third temple, right, in Izzyland for decades now. But now they're up there. They've done the red heifer. They've got, well, Trump has made an exact replica of the Ark of the Covenant. And the story basically, or the prophecy says that when they build the third temple, put the Ark in it, that their psycho God will return, right? And they'll all, I don't know, be blessed and get to rule the world, which they kind of already do, right? So there is that. I think they're pushing agendas. I don't understand what it is and why they would do that, because all these prophecies that they're just created, right? They're made up. The end time war, especially, that's made up. It makes no sense when you look at the context that they're all Abrahamic religions. But this is what they're doing, and this is what they're pushing for. I believe is a big part of it. Of course, Persia, we had Iraq 20 years ago. They're both very prominent countries and regions in the books like the Quran, the Bible, all this kind of stuff, right? All the Abrahamic religions. Iraq was Babylon, and they went in there and stole everything from the museum, apparently found the tomb of Gilgamesh, and now they're doing the same in Iran, right? It's another it's Persia, and they're going in there trying to destroy it. So are they playing out prophecies? Is this just a big game of chess to them? Do they know what's going on? Do they believe it? I don't know. But what it looks like is that finally, these countries that have been pushing everyone else in the world around, basically, the Zionists behind using the USA's military force to terrorize the world, right? Wipe out populations, commit genocide, and install new regimes, new leaderships that they control. This has been going on for a century, right? And it looks like that might be coming to an end. At least I hope it is. It's definitely got vibes of that, right? What's happening now, I didn't expect to see the whole Middle East basically getting together and firing back on the enemy that started it all rather than attacking each other, which is awesome to see. But of course, at the same time, they've been, putting Muslims, people of Islam into Western countries, like flooding them, bringing them in, and with the knowledge that the taxpayers would be paying for it, that they would be losing jobs and benefits and all this kind of stuff, and they would blame each other, right? So they want to create this division within European, countries and Australia and Canada and all this kind of stuff. And that was thought out and done before this war. So keep that in mind too, that what they want is for this war to break out in all the other countries and to have civil war everywhere. And basically religions fighting each other. So let's not fall for that one, because it's in the end, it's we the people, the men and women against the invaders, the psychopaths, the allies, right? Those who follow this psycho god who demands blood sacrifice, which they show us all the time in the entertainment industry, right? We know that this is going on. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a different perspective of what's going on over there, because obviously, watching from a Western world, we only get one point of view. They're all mirroring each other. There's that video out that now of all the news agencies in the USA all saying, it's just a short conflict. It's for the good though. So they've all got a script, right? It's all just fake, basically, is the best word, I guess. But let me know what you think. What do you think's going on there? And do you think that this could be the end of the Zionists, the Khazarians, whatever you want to call them, right? Do you think they might finally fall and we might finally be free from their psychopathic rule? Let me know in the comments. And guys, if you got this far, thanks for staying with me. Thanks for spending some time with me. Please do give me a like, leave me your comments. And if you haven't subscribed, what the bloody hell are you doing? Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button, and you'll be notified of all future uploads. And most importantly, stay awesome. And I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Tiger, go in.
고돌이 이게 뭐야?
Am I walking you or you walking me?
Where's you going? You just gonna leave me?
I'm pooping.
Who just took a shit on this man's head?
Hey? Happy guy. Oh, just a happy guy.
I get stuck on my teeth.